So as we were investigating the sediments below Butler's Trench, we put an auger unit, which is a technique for excavating a cylinder of sediment out of the ground, as a way to get an advanced look at the stratigraphy as it will occur below our feet. And in the process of that, the students came up with a stem point, which I'm holding right here. So finding a stem point in auger is unusual and exciting, but not exactly the way we wanted to find it. So we stopped excavating with the auger unit and we opened up what is now Unit P. And they excavated down using trowels. They found another projectile point in this sediment here. That, of course, is extremely exciting. Finding two stemmed projectile points in proximity to each other is just something that we dream about, but it did happen here. The next day they were excavating in the corner of this unit and they found a third stem point in the ground.
That's definitely stemmed.
Calcium carbonate on the back again.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really a beauty. 3 points in the ground in close proximity to each other is so unusual. In fact, it's such an unusual occurrence that I've only ever seen it once before, and that was in our excavation of Unit A in 1997, and it was in association with a pit feature. I can't lie that the idea that a pit feature didn't cross my mind, but it was only until this morning, when the light was just right and the sediments had dried out enough, that we began to see some shapes occurring in the ground that looked curiously similar to a pit. And as we cleaned them up and exposed the stratigraphy, it indeed appears that all three of these are associated with some kind of pit feature. As the excavators worked very carefully to take the contents of the pit fill apart, they kept finding projectile points over and over and over again. And this was actually quite surprising. It's not unusual to find projectile points, but it's so unusual to find so many in one place. So as we excavate the pit, we make sure to remove the contents, the sediments that are inside the pit feature, separate from those sediments that are found outside the pit feature. So we just make sure that as we're excavating, we're removing the sediments that are inside the pit feature before we remove the sediments that are outside the pit feature. And that allows us to keep those things that are found together inside the pit separately from those things that might be occurring outside.
It's my favorite. The ones that I find are my favorite.
The process of excavation of this pit feature involves the very careful disassembly of the sediments and the objects that are entombed within the sediments. And also, it's a process wherein we find everything we can in place. I would just put a... We want to be able to mark and record and map all the items that we can together so we can see their arrangement in space.
It's that brown peanut brittle style.
Excavating feature P1 at Cooper's Ferry has allowed us to see some of the behavior that early peoples were exhibiting at this site in relation to storage of items. Allows us to think about things like forward thinking, logistical planning, and other kinds of aspects of making a living in this canyon.
This is projectile point number 9 from Unit P.
So this is our third day excavating in feature P1 of Unit P, and we've been finding a number of stem points in the feature, including the 3 that were just recovered today that you can see in the ground. And then in addition to the number of stem points coming out of the feature, we actually also found another one located in the north wall of Butler's Trench. So now we've found a total of 12 stem points out of the pit feature, and then the 1 coming out of the sidewall for a total of 13 stem points.
By excavating the pit and its contents with a trowel and a brush and a small wooden tool, we're able to find everything in place. And this is important because it allows us to mark and record the distribution of all the items so we can have confidence in the association between these different items.